Are you looking for a high-quality facility that is safe, flexible, transformable, memorable for your next event? Look no further. TWC Event Center is located in the revived, historic Meadows neighborhood. With your vision, our team is ready to expertly assist you in hosting your event of a lifetime. If you would like to host your next event at TWC Event Center, visit our website, www.twceventcenter.com, and click on Plan Your Event to fill out the form. Choose TWC Event Center for your next.
In Indianapolis, a beacon of hope stands out among the struggles of violence and poverty. We Care Indy is a remarkable organization that seeks to empower young people by providing valuable guidance and employment opportunities. Their focus is media training with teenagers ages 14 through 19. Their plan is both innovative and ambitious, blending mentorship programs with the career development. The cornerstone of this plan is the creation of career centers, a hub of inspiration that provides training programs in a variety of fields, including media, construction, IT, and entrepreneurship. This year's focus will teach young people the skills of videography, photography, video editing, graphic design, lighting, audio, social media, marketing, website development, and business plan writing. Get ready to take flight with We Care Indy. Committed to holistic care, we value character development as much as career training. That's why we provide a comprehensive mentoring program that covers a variety of essential skills, including conflict resolution, SMART goal settings, financial literacy, character development, leadership training, job and college readiness, time management, group work skills, and mental health awareness. We strongly believe that these skills will not only help youth to succeed in their professional endeavors, but also in their personal lives. We Care Indy is more than just a youth program. The program is designed to ensure our youth develop the necessary skills to become experts in the aspects of media, as well as continuously building their character. The youth will gain knowledge and have opportunities for real practice and implementation. Youth will be partnered with a mentor who will support their development throughout the program. While working with their mentor throughout the year, our youth will fulfill project requests from local partnerships within the community. These partnerships will provide the internship opportunities within local companies, churches, and other organizations. We kindly ask for your financial support and partnership with We Care Indy as we strive to positively impact the lives of our youth. To support We Care Indy, visit wecareindy.org. A gift of $10,000 will sponsor a youth for a year, which includes covering the youth salary, training, equipment, curriculum, and field trips. A gift of $5,000 will fuel a youth growth by sponsoring their training, resources, curriculum, and memorable field trips. A gift of $2,500 will sponsor media equipment and software for a year. Join We Care Indy as we take flight, inspiring our youth to believe anything is possible. Go to wecareindy.org.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Go Get It Thursdays. I'm your host, Dr. Ricky McCray. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be with you this morning. How y'all doing out there? Can y'all just say what's up? I see some people coming in, watching. Yes, what's up, what's up? I pray that this has been a blessing to you, talking about relationships. I pray that you are growing. I pray you are doing the work. I pray that you are making the sacrifices. And I pray more than anything that you are getting closer to God, because the closer to God that you get, the more you'll understand who God is calling you to be in your relationships. So this morning, I want to lift up a couple things before we jump into before we jump into our lesson today. What's up, Kelvin? I see you. Listen, we are in some turmoil when it comes to our country, our nation. I mean, the current president has only been there 10 days, and there's already been things just flipped upside down, and dealing with immigration, temporary freezing, grants and finances. And so we are threats of war. So again, we are in prayer for our nation. We are in prayer. Also so a couple of things. One, that the people who are in positions to have influence and to change things, that they will be bold and courageous and stand for what is right and speak up and use their voice and their influence and their resources. And then that God will reveal to us, each and every one of us, what we are to do to make a change, to have an impact right in the communities and around the people that God has placed us in. And so I pray for that for everyone. There was also a plane crash, American flight. I believe it crashed or collided with a helicopter. So I want to be praying for them, praying for the wars that are happening around the world that oftentimes we forget. And so I just want to lift that up. And I want to especially lift up, there are a lot of children who are kidnapped and placed into sex trafficking and all of that. So I just want to pray for those young people as well. And so this morning, if you are here, you're not here on accidents. It's not a coincidence. You are here on purpose. So I want to read the scripture this morning because we're in this series that is called Great Partner is Not. A great partner is made, not born. Made, not born. And again, I always say, it's not about you making the other person a great partner. It's about you becoming a great partner. And so this morning, we're going to continue on talking about understanding. And I'm going to stay here for a few weeks because, there's so much as I've started doing this studying on the importance of understanding and how important it is to relationships and people. I'm like, it is blowing my mind. So I'm going to start sharing this with you so that it can help you in your relationships. It can help you to become a better person. So let's go to the text. Let's go to the text today. And we're in Proverbs. Proverbs is that book of wisdom. And so we're going to go to Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7. Let's read this. This is Solomon really speaking to his son. He says, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, understanding. I need you to understand that. One of the wisest people who had ever lived. You got to pay attention. He says, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And it's this last part we're going to deal with. And in all you're getting, get understanding. Today, we're talking about great relationship partners are made, not born. This is understanding part 2. Understanding part 2. Y'all ready to get into this thing? I think that one of the important pieces about one of the things that's important about this idea of understanding is that most of us are always seeking to be understood. And so we begin to always look at what our partners are saying, whether it's your kids, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, a co-worker, somebody at church, whatever it is, or a husband or spouse, wife. We are always, here it is, trying to look at their situation from our point of view. We are always trying to look at how we would respond, how we would react, right? What we would say, right? How we would take it. Anybody want to be honest this morning? That you've even said stuff like, I wouldn't have taken it like that. I wouldn't have taken it like that. I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have been offended by that. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so you're in relationship, but the problem is you keep looking at their point of view from your point of view. And it doesn't make sense. Anybody ever said, I hope you didn't said it to the person, but maybe you just said, I don't get it. I don't understand you. They don't make sense to me. The way that they're wired, the way that they think, the way that they talk, it doesn't make sense to me. Anybody this morning, you can be honest that sometimes in relationship, the person you're with just doesn't make sense to you. Right? Let's be honest. Listen, y'all, I need some people that's going to be honest this morning. Just be honest and be like, you know what? I don't get them. They don't make sense. They're offended by stuff that I'm like, I would never be offended by that. Right? I could say this and all of a sudden they take it a certain way. They're like, I would never take it like that. And so understanding seems to be like an illusion. Like that's something that is a mystery. Yes, you love them. You love them to death, but you don't get it. Anybody, you can say, I love them, but I don't get them. I don't get their fears. I don't get how, I don't get what they say. I don't get how they feel about things. I don't get how sensitive they are, or I don't get how they're not sensitive about this. But over here, you done made a big deal over this stuff that is small. But over here, you make this big old thing real small. You're like, hold up. This don't make no sense. Now, you done made the fact that I left my shoe on the floor, right, and not in its proper place, this huge issue, and you done went all off on me. But then we talking about finances, and all of a sudden you don't even give it no attention. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Am I the only one this morning that you just sometimes, when you're in a relationship with somebody, no matter how much you love them, you just don't get them? They just don't make sense. Something about it doesn't make sense. And so when you begin to read this scripture that Solomon is telling his son, matter of fact, one verse it says, if it costs you everything you got, get understanding. And you're like, I don't know how to understand them. That's what we're going to be talking about today. That's what we're going to be dealing with. Where's the beginning? How do I begin to understand the person I'm in relationship with? I want you to think about, how do I begin? Have you ever asked that? Have you ever felt that? How do I begin to understand the person I'm in relationship with? I want to share something with you that I believe that will be a blessing to you, it has been a blessing to me when I've started to understand this. Here is the thing I need you to understand. Every time you have a misunderstanding, it causes a gap in your relationships. So today, I want to deal with this. This is important. I want to deal with this. Here it is. Understanding closes the gap. Understanding closes the gap. Can you say that? Understanding closes the gap. Okay, you said, how in the world, what does that have to do with anything? Here's what you need to understand. When you don't understand a person, right, and y'all have a misunderstanding, it causes some distance. We all know that, right? There's a distance that happens, right? All of a sudden, you get a little further apart. And then the next time you have a misunderstanding, you don't deal with it, you have you got some more distance. And so many of us are in relationship with the person. And the truth of the matter is, because we have so many misunderstandings, and because we haven't dealt with them, there's just like this chasm between us that you just feel like no matter what you do, you can't connect with them. Anybody feel like that this morning? That you have some relationship that no matter what you do, you just can't seem to connect with them. And you don't know what it is, right? And you're like, man, I'm trying to deal with this, but and I'm trying to connect and I'm trying to do things to connect, but nothing is working. Here's what you need to understand. The reason that the things you're doing to try to connect doesn't work is because you haven't gone back and dealt with your misunderstandings. Because that right there, as you get more understanding, it closes the gap. Okay. And you say, well, why would Solomon say this to his son? Here's what you need to understand. Solomon understood that his brothers, right? His father was David. David had an issue with his other son, Absalom. I need you to understand, right? You need to understand the writer. Solomon here is like, hey, I've seen what misunderstanding looks like. I saw my father and my brother have a misunderstanding. What was the misunderstanding? They had a sister named Tamar who was raped by a brother. And instead of David dealing with that, he ignored it. And so Absalom took matters into his own hand and killed his brother. And David didn't deal with the situation. And so there was misunderstanding between them. And literally years went by where they didn't talk. And after years of not talking and years of misunderstanding, when David finally invites Absalom back, Absalom tries to take over the kingdom. Why? What am I telling you? That Solomon understood. He was trying to tell his son, listen, when you have misunderstanding in relationship, it will cause a separation that literally it will be so hard. It will be hard to come back from. Okay, now can we deal with this thing? You say, how do I get understanding then, Doc? You got to tell me, how do I get understanding? Here it is. In order to have understanding, it requires empathy. Can somebody write that down? Say empathy. In order to understand the person you're in relationship, it requires you to have empathy. Okay, so what is empathy? Empathy is a understanding the person from their frame of reference rather than your own. From their point of view rather than your own. I need you to get this. If you're going to understand the person you're in relationship, you have to have empathy, which means you want to see things from their point of view. Now, I need you to understand, when I see things from their point, it's not about agreement. I need you to hear me. Because some of you will misconstrue this and say, you know what? So I got to agree with everything? No. You don't have to agree with things. You have to understand their point of view, where they're coming from. And I want to deal with this because empathy, when you have empathy for somebody, when you say, listen, I at least understand where you're coming from. And I understand how you could see it that way, how you could feel it that way. What it does, it reduces the distance between you. It allows you to have an emotional bond. It holds you together. Now, can I tell y'all why it's hard for us? How many of you out there, it's hard for you to see things from somebody else's point of view? Can we be honest? How many of you like, ugh? I mean, I love them, but it's hard for me to see things from their point of view. Can I talk to you a little bit about why it might be hard for you to understand what they're experiencing emotionally? Because some of you, you're like, oh, they so sensitive. Anybody ever said that? The person you relate, oh, they're so sensitive, so emotional, right? Can I talk to you about why you may not be able to do that? Here it is, because in order for you to exercise your empathy muscle, here's what it requires: self-awareness. Man, somebody should write that down. Self-awareness. If you're gonna have empathy for someone, for the person in your relationship, you gotta have self-awareness. What does this mean? Let me break it down like this. I was reading this article. It says this: if you don't know your own feelings, you cannot see them in others. Woo! Man, y'all hear me. If you don't know your own feelings, you won't be able to see them in others, because having empathy for someone is being able to identify your own feelings in them. That you'll be able to say, oh, I know what that feels like. Oh, you're scared? I know what it feels like to be scared. Oh, you've been offended. Oh, I know what it feels like to be offended. Oh, you feel abandoned. Oh, I know what it feels like to be abandoned. But if you have shut off your emotions, my God, you will never be able to understand them because you cut off your own emotions. Man, is this, woo? Did somebody feel that this morning? How many of you can be honest? You've cut off your own awareness of your emotions. That you don't take time to take in your emotions, because for you, emotions are bad. Woo! And you've told yourself, I can't be emotional. I ain't got time for that. I got to get this money. I got to be on my grind. I got to keep moving. Anybody being honest this morning? That maybe you didn't realize it, but because you was trying to be so tough, because you was trying to be on your hustle, that at some point you've cut off understanding your own emotions. You can't even articulate it. You don't even have language for it. Matter of fact, anytime you start feeling, matter of fact, here's the saying, right? I feel some kind of way. Do y'all know why we say we feel some kind of way? It's because we as a society have said it is bad to be emotional. No, being emotional is human. And instead of trying to push it down, push it away, what we should be doing is trying to embrace it and understand it. Because as long as you can't understand your own emotions and your own feelings, you'll never be able to understand the people you're in relationships' feelings. You won't. You're trying to be intellectual. That's what I got somebody right now that's like, You're trying to rationalize, reason why they feel the way they feel. Why they feel like you're not really in it. Why they feel like you're distant. Why they feel like you don't get them. Yeah, you cannot. Because in order to understand their feelings, you have to feel yourself. Woo! Man, just talk back to me this morning. Say, this is for me. Somebody just say, this is for me. Man, if I'm honest, I've cut off a lot of my emotions. But why do we overlook our emotions? I got to give this thing to you. Why do we overlook our feelings? I want to share a couple of things that I learned from the, and this was so good when I read this. I went and looked at this video by the School of Life. And I want to read this to you. I don't generally do that, but I want to read this. It says, because we generally... He says this, that many of us, we don't notice our feelings. We cut them off. Here it is, because of what people who from our childhood generally paid attention to. I need you to hear this. We notice the emotions that the people from our childhood paid attention to, and conversely ignore those emotions or ignore those emotions that were sidelined or belittled. If no one cared that you were worried, or the grounds for your anger were refused immediately, if there was dominant assumption that tiredness is for wimps, then you will follow suit and have disdains for bits and pieces of yourself. Let me see if I can make this a little clearer. For too many of us, as you were growing up, whatever your parents deemed as important feelings, that's what you thought was important. But if they dismissed all your feelings, guess what? You've learned to dismiss your own feelings. Ooh. Because we literally base our feelings and emotions based on what we see others and how they treat us. If your parents made you always feel like when you tired and you say, oh, I'm tired, they be like, man, that's weak. You ain't tired. You be like, oh, I'm sick. You ain't sick. I'm like, oh man, I'm scared. You ain't scared. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so literally what you did is you said, oh, my parents or the person who raised me, my caregiver, they said this is not important. So I need to deny that part of my emotions. I need to deny those feelings. So here it is. So whenever anybody else expresses that thing or feeling in them, you immediately deny it. Ooh, you immediately dismiss it. You immediately belittle. How many of you can be honest that you've belittled the person you're related? You belittled their feelings. Ooh, can we be honest this morning? Woo! That you was like, but I don't understand. You ain't got to be mad about that. You know, I don't know. You ain't got to be scared. Don't be scared. Ooh, Jesus. You ain't tired, right? You ain't burnt out. Man, I hope somebody can get this morning. You belittle. So I want you to think about what are the things you belittle in your partner, in your family, in your relationships. Those things you belittle, those things you dismiss, those things that you make small are actually things that in your childhood somebody made small for you. And I want you to think about this. How did you feel when as a child somebody told you that you shouldn't feel like that? Or, you know, you ain't got nothing to worry about. You living a good life. Anybody, you know what, Lord Jesus, I'm convicted myself. Because I have told this to my kids. Who, when my daughters complained about, I'm like, you ain't got nothing to complain about. You living a good life right now. You got this, you got that. And I start naming all stuff. Not even realizing I'm belittling their feelings. I'm telling them that feeling is not important. Which means I'm telling them that they're supposed to live a life of privilege. Ooh, I need you to get this. You right now have been trying to, whether you realize it or not, subconsciously tell your partner they got it good. They live in a privileged life. They should never complain. But is that realistic? Man, we got all kind of stuff to feel emotionally about. You've cut off and belittled because somebody cut off and belittled your emotions. You are now doing the same. Do you remember what it felt like when your parents told you, don't, you know, my mom was something else. She was like, oh, you mad? You better scratch your booty, get glad. You're like, wait, what? Anybody know them old parenting sayings, right? That every time you said something and expressed an emotion, now they didn't know. They belittled it. And now you're doing the same thing. There's a commercial. I think it's a Geico. It's either Geico or Progressive. It said, you know, we can't protect you from becoming your parents. You've become your parents. You've become your caregiver. And now you're literally inflicting that same pain onto someone else. You say, well, how do I get back in touch with my emotions, my feelings? And I see somebody said, forgive me. Is there anybody you can be honest? Man, maybe you do need forgiveness. That you've belittled this person's emotions, their feelings. And maybe you need to say, I'm sorry. You know what? I have belittled your experience of this thing. And you know what? Your experience is valid. I don't have to agree. And I don't have to say I feel the same, but I know the feeling of being scared. I know the feeling of being tired. Can I tell you something? Sometimes emotionally, what we are going through, there are signals, there are alarms, there are warnings that are literally firing off, but they're not always connected to our brain and our intellect. And so we miss it, right? So in the physical, if somebody cut your arm, you'll be able to see that, right? You'll be able to feel that. There's something in your brain. The neurons will say, hey, we're hurting. We need to get this fixed. But emotionally, Sometimes the signs are going off, but we're not in touch with the frequencies, right? Because we've pushed things so down for so long. We kept pushing for so long. And maybe you need to be doing a wellness check. Maybe for those of you who's like, I don't need no therapist. Maybe you need to see a therapist for the stuff that there's sirens going off. Matter of fact, and the people in your life see it. They hear it. They're experiencing it. They experience you being short with them, going off on them. They experience this anger. They experience you being distant. They're experiencing you shutting them down, right? They're experiencing it and you're missing it. And maybe you need to get somebody who can talk to you about these blind spots, because maybe there's some stuff emotionally going on that you've suppressed. You can't understand your partner if you don't understand you. Man, I don't know. That need to be on a t-shirt. What y'all think? You can't understand your partner if you don't understand you or yourself. Some of you got so much trauma, and I mean, you so jacked up from the floor. That stuff that you experienced in childhood, it messed you up. Can we just be honest? Listen, I know personally, because my mom and I, we used to laugh about, we used to laugh about all the trauma that we experienced, and my dad, abusing my mom, and, us having to get up in the middle of the night and run and all these things, call the police. And one day I'm talking to my wife and she's like, babe, that ain't funny. Like, you realize that's not funny? That you witnessed your mom being abused physically by your father? Like, you realize that's not funny that you saw your mom get pushed out of a car, out of a moving car? I started saying, man, you're right. I've learned to cope. Ooh, here it is. Some of us we've learned to cope with the trauma we've experienced. And so that coping mechanism is a false healing. Ooh, Jesus. You think you're healed because you can laugh about it, because you can move on, or you can talk about it, or you can do something else to numb the pain. But the truth of the matter is, if you haven't dealt with it, if you ain't got no help, you ain't whole. Man, I hope somebody is getting this. Is this for you this morning? You've learned to cope with, and some of you, man, if you could hear yourself, the way you talk about your childhood as if it was the greatest child, I get it. You had a good childhood. I understand that here's what we do. We compare our childhood with some of the worst childhoods, and we say to ourselves, I can't complain about my childhood because it don't look like this. When the reality is you don't have to you're not supposed to compare it. You can have a great childhood and still have trauma. Man, you can have a great childhood and still have rejection and pain and disappointment. And too many of us have dismissed our own trauma because we're comparing it to somebody else's worst trauma, and we remain broken. Which is why you can't understand the person you're in relationship with, because you keep comparing how they feel to a worse situation. Jesus. Man, I hope somebody is getting this. This is deep this morning. Man, let me know if you're getting this thing this morning. Just let me know. Send up a like, a heart. Just be like, man, this for me. Who are we talking to? Understanding requires for you first to get some understanding about you. Get back in touch with what you feel. Matter of fact, here's what I love. You got to start listening to yourself. You got to start reconnecting with your own feelings, your own emotions that you always push down. And tell yourself this, it's not bad. Because somebody, I wonder if, for who is out there, again, somebody made you feel like being emotional was a sign of weakness. when no, it's a sign of being human. Matter of fact, it's healthy. It's healthy to know when you feel rejected, you feel abandoned, right? That when you feel frustrated, when you feel afraid. It's important when you feel disrespected or you feel belittled. It's important to know that. Identify it. Now you can begin to deal with it and say, well, why do I feel like that? And man, we're going to get into some of that later because that's the next step, right? Once you understand that you have this emotion, you can identify it, then we start saying, well, why do I feel like that? What is God trying to reveal to me about me when I am offended? Man, can I say that to you? What is God trying to reveal to you about you when you're offended? What is God trying to bring up that may not be healed all the way yet? Because too many of us, when we're offended, again, separation. And so we need to understand, why am I feeling like this? What's the stuff that's really going on that I need to deal with? So I need you to understand that today. Whew. Here's the thing, and I want to end it with this. That once I understand how I feel, my own emotions, I get back and reconnected with that. And here it is. Give myself permission. Give myself permission to feel my emotions again. That I say it's okay that I feel however I feel. We're going to continue on with this next week because it gets deeper and I don't want to rush this. I was going to just hurry up and go to the next, but I don't want to rush this because I feel like if you're going to begin to be a great partner, you got to do the work on you. And there's some more things we need to talk about how you deal with emotions and what you really think about them. And I wonder if reason you feel the way you feel or don't feel is because I want you to do some reflection this week. What did your parents celebrate about emotions? And what did your parents belittle, stonewall, or maybe even humiliated you about? I know we got a lot of men watching. I remember when you were a little kid, and I would hear it all the time. Stop crying like a little girl. I'm like, wait, what? Stop crying like a little girl. Which then, what it told me was, as a boy, as a male, as a man, I'm not supposed to cry. But that's not a gender emotion. Crying is a human emotion. It's me expressing my pain, my hurt, disappointment, whatever it is. And too many of us as men, somebody told you those things. And so now you don't even know how to release things. So you hold on to everything. There's a reason why men are having so many heart attacks. It's because the stress on our hearts, because we haven't learned how to release, to feel emotions and give ourselves the permission to say, it's okay. It's okay if I cry. It's okay if I'm hurt. It's okay if I'm offended. Real men cry. Real men express their emotions. So we're going to continue to talk about this. If you say, man, woo, this was deep today. I didn't know we was going to be dealing with this. You say, man, this is me though. I can't understand my partner or the people I'm in a relationship with because the truth of the matter is I don't understand my own feelings. And there's a lot of stuff that I learned them from my childhood that was bad. We label emotions as bad. And there's no such thing as a bad emotion. And you say, man, I need prayer with this thing. Because I don't understand the people I'm in relationship. I don't understand why they feel the way they feel. I can't see it from their point of view because I've really disconnected from my emotions, my feelings. I want to pray with you. Just put your name this morning. Just type your name. If you can be honest that you convinced yourself you had to turn your emotions off to get through whatever you had to get through. But here's the problem. You made it out and you still have not turned the emotions back on. Because at this point, it makes you feel safe and in control. Maybe you don't understand the person you're in a relationship with because you're still trying to be in control. You're acting as if you're still in that place of threat and danger. I want to pray with you. Can you write your name down? I want to pray with you today. I promise if you get this deliverance, this kind of healing, man, it closes the gap and you will feel connected again. You'll not necessarily agree with them, but you'll say, I do know what that feels like. And I don't want you to feel like that. If that is you this morning, I want to pray with you. Gracious God, first we ask that you forgive us. No, first we forgive. We forgive our parents, our caregivers, those adults who helped raise us, those teachers and coaches who were doing the best that they could. And so we forgive them, God, for when they belittled or stonewalled or humiliated our feelings or emotions. Because we recognize, God, perhaps that happened to them. And perhaps they thought it would help us grow. So we forgive them, God. And then, God, we ask for forgiveness because we know hurt people hurt other people. So we ask you forgive us for how we've done the same thing in our relationships with our spouse, with our children, with our parents, with our siblings, with our family members, with our friends, with co-workers, with people in ministry and community. God, we do want to feel again. We want to get connected with that instead of pushing it down to understand it. To understand that, God, that when something is happening emotionally, God, it's an opportunity for us to do some self-reflecting, for us to realize there might be a wound somewhere, that there might be a trauma or pain somewhere. And God, we need healing in that area. Help us to be bold and courageous enough to, God, take the time to go to a therapist. So, God, we can see those blind spots. So that, God, we can become better for ourselves first. And then, God, the more in touch we get with us, the more in touch we can get with the people we're in relationship with. God, we want to be more like you. We want to be more like your son, Jesus. God, we want to get understanding, though it cost everything we have. God, we also recognize that because we've been disconnected from our emotions and feelings, God, we've also have a wall and a chasm and a gap when it comes to our relationship with you. That God, we have a hard time understanding the plan you have for us, the will you have for our lives. So help us to get connected again with you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I hope you were blessed this morning. I pray that this thing spoke to you. Listen, I tell you, get some therapy, go talk with someone. You can't figure this out just on your own. You need help. Can somebody say that? I need help. You will not be able to get back in touch with your feelings and emotions and give yourself permission to do all of that and then understand your partner without some help. It's okay. We all need help. I'm seeing a therapist. I want you to do that. That's why I can share the things I'm sharing, because I have a therapist who is helping me with these blind spots, to help me with these emotional wounds that I have that have literally just been open, and some of them have been infected. And now I'm getting some healing and getting it closed up. Listen, I'm praying for you. I want to share a couple quick things. Listen, I want to share this. We Care Indy. We Care Indy is doing phenomenal things with our young people in our community and being a blessing. And so listen, if you say, I want to support what some young people are doing in our community, here's some ways you can support We Care Indy. I want to make sure that you have this opportunity to support. You can go to wecareindy.org, wecareindy.org. See what we're doing. We are teaching media, character development, and also career, and we're employing them. And so we're building our young people to be great leaders of tomorrow. And so I want to remind you of that. Also, for those of you who say, man, I'm looking for a place to worship on Sunday, listen, you can join us on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. You can join us online. You can join us online at The Way. You can go to our Facebook or our YouTube page, The Way Indy. And so we want to definitely worship with you on Sunday. I just believe that there's going to be some great things. I want to also remind us that on February 9th, Sunday, February 9th, Vision Sunday. I want you to bring your vision boards and I'm going to pray over them. And even if you have them online, I want to pray over them. Write your vision board about what you believe in God to do in your life in 2025. 2025 Vision Sunday. That is February 9th at 10:30 a.m., whether you're in person or online. Listen, I thank you for joining us on today. I want to continue to pray for you, continue to pray for our nation and our world. But I do believe that one of the enemy's greatest strategies is to divide families, right? And if he can divide people in relationships, then he can conquer. Remember, that is the strategy, to divide and conquer. That's why we must come together. So, listen, keep us all in prayer. I want you to go discover, live out your God-given purpose. Remember, great relationship partner. They're made, not born. God bless you. Until next week.